Hey everyone. Get cozy, settle into a comfy position, and let these calming tales whisk you away to a peaceful night's sleep. Drop a comment below on what time and from where you are watching this video and share your own late-night ritual that helps you drift off. The sun bled orange across the cracked horizon, painting the Mojave Wasteland in hues of fire and rust. Elias Kane crouched behind a splintered billboard, its faded Nuka-Cola logo barely legible under decades of sand and decay. His breath was steady, but his heart thrummed with the weight of the moment. Below, in the shallow valley, a caravan trudged along the broken asphalt of old Route 15. Two Brahmin lowed under their heavy packs, and the merchants, 3 men and a woman in mismatched armor, kept their eyes darting, rifles ready. Elias tightened his grip on his weathered 10mm pistol. He wasn't here for their goods. He was here for answers. Elias was no stranger to the wasteland's cruelty. At 32 he'd survived raider ambushes, rat scorpion stings, and the kind of hunger that gnawed at your soul. His leather duster, patched and sun-bleached, hung loose over a frame lean from years of scavenging. His dark hair was cropped short, and a scar ran jagged across his left cheek, a memento from a super mutant's blade. But it wasn't survival that drove him now. It was the name, Dr. Evelyn Cross. The caravan below wasn't random. Elias had tracked it for 3 days, following whispers from traders in Goodsprings. They spoke of a woman who knew too much about the old world, a scientist who'd vanished into the desert with secrets that could change the wasteland. Elias needed her. Not for power or caps but for his sister Mara. She was dying, her lungs rotting from some pre-war chemical taint, and no chem in the Mojave could save her. Evelyn Cross, they said, had worked on something called Project Purity, a way to cleanse poison from the body, maybe even the land. If she was alive, Elias would find her. If she wasn't, he'd tear the desert apart looking. He adjusted his binoculars, scanning the caravan. The woman merchant caught his eye. She moved differently, less cautious, more deliberate. Her hood was up, shadowing her face, but her posture screamed confidence. Could it be her? Elias's gut twisted. He'd learned to trust that feeling, but he'd also learned it could lie. He needed to get closer. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of dust and Brahmin sweat. Elias slid down the rocky slope, silent as a shadow. He'd grown up in the ruins of Vegas, dodging Legion patrols and NCR taxmen. Stealth was his second language. As he neared the caravan, he caught snatches of their conversation. Saw tracks near Prim. Deathclaw maybe, one man muttered, spitting into the dirt. Keep moving, the woman snapped. Her voice was sharp, authoritative. We're late for Freeside. Elias froze. That voice. It matched the description from a trader in Novak. Clipped, precise, like someone who'd read too many pre-war books. He edged closer, crouching behind a rusted car frame. The woman turned slightly and the fading light caught her face. Mid-40s, maybe, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that scanned the horizon like a hawk. A faint scar traced her jaw. Elias's pulse quickened. It had to be Evelyn. But before he could move, a crack split the air. Gunfire. The merchants dove for cover as bullets kicked up dust around them. Elias ducked, peering over the car's hood. Raiders, 6 of them clad in spiked leather, poured from a nearby ridge, howling like fiends. Their leader, a wiry man with a mohawk, brandished a machete. Drop the caps or we skin ya, he bellowed. Elias cursed under his breath. He didn't have time for this. The caravan fought back, their rifles spitting fire, but the raiders were closing fast. If Evelyn was down there, she'd be dead in minutes. Elias weighed his options. He could slip away, wait for the fight to end, and track the survivors. But if Evelyn died, Mara's last hope died with her. He gritted his teeth and made his choice. He sprinted toward the chaos, pistol raised. The raiders didn't see him coming. He dropped the first with a clean shot to the chest, then pivoted, firing twice more. 2 raiders fell, but the leader spun, spotting him. Fresh meat, he snarled, charging with his machete. Elias dove behind a Brahmin, the blade whistling past his ear. He fired blindly, clipping the raider's shoulder. The man roared but kept coming. Elias rolled, grabbing a rock and hurling it. It struck the raider's face, buying him a second. He aimed and fired. The leader dropped, blood pooling in the dirt. The remaining raiders hesitated, then fled, their shouts fading into the dusk. Elias panted, scanning the caravan. One merchant was dead, another wounded. The woman, Evelyn if it was her, stood unharmed, rifle still in hand. She locked eyes with him, her gaze cold and calculating. "Who the hell are you?" she demanded. Elias holstered his pistol, raising his hands. "Name's Elias Kane. I'm not here to rob you." "Then why are you here?" Her finger hovered over the trigger. He took a breath, choosing his words carefully. "I'm looking for Dr. Evelyn Cross. I think you're her." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't deny it. "You're a long way from safe, Elias Kane. Start talking." Elias stood under Evelyn's piercing stare, the desert wind tugging at his duster. The surviving merchants, 2 men now, one clutching a bleeding arm, watched him warily, their rifles still half raised. The Brahmin lowed nervously, shifting their heavy packs. Elias kept his hands visible, his voice steady. "My sister's dying," he said. "Mara. Some kind of pre-war poison in her lungs. I heard you worked on Project Purity. If anyone can save her, it's you." Evelyn's expression didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. "Project Purity," she said, her voice low, like she was tasting the words. "You've been talking to the wrong people, Kane. That project's dead. Buried in the capital wasteland with everyone who believed in it." "Then why were you out here?" Elias pressed. "Hiding in a caravan dodging raiders? You're not just a merchant." She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You think you know me? You don't know a damn thing." She lowered her rifle but didn't holster it. "Walk away. Forget my name." "I can't," Elias said. "Mara's all I've got. I'll do whatever it takes to find you. Or your work." Evelyn studied him, her eyes flicking over his scarred face, his patched duster, the way he stood, ready to move but not threatening. Finally she nodded to the merchants. "Patch him up," she said, gesturing to the wounded man. "We move in 10. She turned back to Elias. "You want to talk? You walk with us. But you try anything and I'll put a bullet in you myself." Elias nodded. It wasn't trust, but it was a start. As the caravan packed up, he helped the wounded merchant, a grizzled man named Tuck, bind his arm with a strip of cloth. Tuck grunted thanks but kept his distance. Elias didn't blame him. Trust was a currency nobody could afford in the wasteland. They marched through the night, the stars sharp above the endless dunes. Evelyn led the way, her hood up, saying little. Elias stayed close, watching her. She moved like someone who'd seen too much, shoulders tense, always scanning. He wondered what she was running from. The NCR? The Legion? Or something older, something tied to those pre-war secrets she carried? At dawn they reached a crumbling gas station, its pumps long dry. The caravan set up camp, and Evelyn finally sat across from Elias, a small fire crackling between them. "All right," she said. "You want my help? Prove you're worth it. Tell me why I should care about your sister." Elias clenched his jaw. He hated baring his soul, but he had no choice. "Mara raised me after our parents died. Raiders hit our settlement when I was 6. She was 12, but she kept us alive. Scavenging, hiding, teaching me how to shoot. Now she's coughing up blood and I can't do a damn thing to stop it. You're my last shot." Evelyn's face softened, just for a moment. "You're not the first to come looking for miracles," she said. Project Purity wasn't about healing people. It was about water, clean water for a dying world. But it failed. The Brotherhood of Steel, the Enclave, they tore it apart. I barely got out alive. "Then why do people still talk about you?" Elias asked. "They say you're working on something new. Something that can fix more than water." She looked away, her fingers tightening around her canteen. "People talk too much," she muttered. But there was a flicker in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or fear. Elias caught it. She was hiding something. Before he could press, Tuck's voice cut through the camp. "Riders. East side." Elias spun, drawing his pistol. 3 figures on horseback galloped toward them, dust trailing in their wake. But these weren't raiders. Their armor was too clean, too uniform. Red sashes glinted in the dawn light. "Legion." Evelyn cursed, grabbing her rifle. "Get to cover," she shouted. The merchants scrambled, but the riders were fast, closing the distance in seconds. Elias dove behind a rusted pump, firing at the lead rider. The shot missed and the man, a centurion by his plume, drew a machete, his horse rearing. "Cross," the centurion bellowed. "Caesar wants you alive, but he didn't say unharmed." Elias's blood ran cold. The Legion was after Evelyn. This wasn't random, they knew her. He glanced at her, crouched behind a crate, her face pale but resolute. She wasn't just a scientist. She was a target. He fired again, this time catching a rider in the shoulder. The man fell, but the others kept coming. Tuck screamed as a machete slashed his chest, blood spraying. Elias's mind raced. He couldn't let Evelyn die. Not now. He sprinted toward her, grabbing her arm. "Run!" he shouted, dragging her toward the gas station's ruins. Bullets whizzed past as they dove inside, the walls barely holding against the onslaught. Evelyn yanked free, her eyes blazing. "You idiot," she hissed. "You don't know what you're in for." "Then tell me." Elias snapped. "Why's the Legion after you?" She hesitated, then pulled a small device from her coat, a metal disc etched with pre-war symbols. "This," she said. "It's a key. To something they'll kill for." Elias stared at the disc, his heart pounding. "What does it open?" Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. "A vault. One nobody's supposed to find." The gas station's walls shook as the Legion riders circled, their shouts echoing through the dawn. Elias and Evelyn crouched behind a crumbling counter, the air thick with dust and the stench of old oil. The metal disc in Evelyn's hand glinted faintly, its intricate etchings catching the slivers of light that pierced the broken roof. Elias's mind raced. A vault. Not just any vault by the sound of it. Something the Legion wanted badly enough to hunt her across the Mojave. "What's in it?" he asked, keeping his voice low as he checked his pistol's ammo. 6 rounds left. Not enough. Evelyn's eyes flicked to the disc, then back to him. "You don't want to know," she said. "And I don't have time to explain. We need to move." "Move where?" Elias hissed. "They've got horses. We're pinned." She didn't answer, instead crawling toward a rusted hatch in the floor. She pried it open, revealing a dark tunnel beneath. "Sewers," she said. "Old pre-war drainage system. Leads to a bunker a mile out. You coming or not?" Elias glanced at the door where the Legion's shadows flickered. The merchant's screams had stopped. He didn't need to check to know they were dead. "Lead the way," he muttered. They dropped into the tunnel, the hatch clanging shut behind them. The air was damp, reeking of mold and stagnant water. Evelyn pulled a small flashlight from her pack, its beam cutting through the dark. The walls were lined with cracked pipes and the floor squelched under their boots. Elias stayed close, his pistol ready, though he doubted it'd do much good down here. "How'd the Legion find you?" he asked as they moved. "They've been hunting me since I left the capital Wasteland," Evelyn said, her voice echoing off the walls. "Caesar thinks I can give him an edge. He's wrong, but he doesn't listen." "An edge?" Elias pressed. "What's in that vault?" She stopped, turning to face him. Her flashlight cast harsh shadows across her face, making her look older, wearier. "It's not just a vault," she said. "It's a seed bank. Pre-war tech designed to restore the ecosystem. Seeds, genetic templates, even machines to purify soil. If it works, it could bring back forests, crops, life. If it doesn't, it's just another tomb." Elias stared at her. "And you think it'll save Mara?" Evelyn's jaw tightened. "I don't know. The tech might help, but it's experimental. And it's not like I've got a lab to test it." "Then why carry the key?" he asked. "Why not destroy it?" "Because it's hope," she snapped. "The only hope left for this godforsaken world. You think I want the Legion getting it? Or the NCR for that matter? They'd turn it into a weapon or a bargaining chip." Elias nodded slowly. He understood hope. It was what kept him going even when Mara's coughs grew worse, even when the wasteland tried to break him. "So where's this vault?" he asked. "North," Evelyn said. "Near Black Mountain. But it's not that simple. The key's only part of it. There's a code and I don't have it." "Great," Elias muttered. "So we're chasing a locked door." She smirked, the first hint of humor he'd seen. "Welcome to my life." They moved in silence after that, the tunnel stretching on, its walls closing in. Elias's thoughts drifted to Mara, lying in a shack in Good Springs, her breath shallow and ragged. He'd promised her he'd come back with a cure. He couldn't fail her now. The tunnel ended at a ladder leading to another hatch. Evelyn climbed first, easing it open. Sunlight spilled through, blinding after the dark. They emerged in a small bunker, its walls lined with pre-war crates and a dusty terminal. Evelyn checked the terminal, her fingers flying over the keys. It's clear, she said. For now. Elias stepped outside, scanning the horizon. The Mojave stretched endless before them, dotted with cacti and ruins. No sign of the Legion, but they wouldn't be far. What's the plan? He asked. We find the code, Evelyn said. There's a man in Freeside who might know it. Goes by Jericho. Enclave, knows more about pre-war tech than anyone. Freeside's a war zone, Elias said. King's raiders, addicts. You sure about this? No, Evelyn admitted. But it's our only shot. They set out, the sun climbing high. The journey to Freeside was brutal. 2 days of heat, dust, and the constant threat of ambush. Elias kept watch while Evelyn studied her disk, muttering to herself about encryption and failsafes. He noticed the way her hands shook slightly, the weight of her secrets wearing her down. On the second night, as they camped in a ruined diner, Elias finally asked, "Why'd you keep running? You could have hidden better. Settled somewhere." Evelyn stared into the fire. "I tried," she said. "After Purity fell, I thought I could disappear. But the Legion found me. Then the NCR. Everyone wants a piece of the past, Kane. They think it'll save them. Or make them gods." "And you?" he asked. "What do you want?" She didn't answer for a long time. "I want to fix what's broken," she said finally. "But I don't know if I can." Before Elias could reply, a shadow moved outside the diner. He grabbed his pistol, motioning for silence. The shadow grew, joined by another. Not Legion, too quiet. He crept to the window, peering out. 2 figures in black armor, their faces hidden behind gas masks. Enclave. Evelyn's eyes widened. "No," she whispered. "Not now." "Who are they?" Elias hissed. "Trouble," she said, grabbing her pack. "Run. Now." They bolted for the back door, but it was too late. The Enclave soldiers burst in, weapons raised. "Dr. Cross," one said, his voice distorted by the mask. "You're coming with us." Elias fired, his bullets sparking off their armor. Evelyn threw a chair, buying them a second. They dove through a broken window, glass cutting Elias's arm as they hit the dirt outside. The Enclave was on them, their boots pounding the ground. "Split up," Evelyn shouted, sprinting left. Elias went right, his heart hammering. He didn't know if she'd make it, but he knew one thing. He wasn't losing her. Not when she was Mara's last hope. Elias sprinted through the dark, his boots kicking up clouds of dust as he wove between jagged rocks and skeletal cacti. The Enclave soldiers were close, too close. Their armored steps echoed behind him, precise and relentless, like machines hunting prey. His lungs burned, but he didn't slow. Evelyn had the key, the hope for Mara, and if he lost her now, it was all for nothing. He ducked behind a crumbling wall, once part of some pre-war house, now just a pile of concrete and rebar. The moonlight cast long shadows and he pressed himself into them, holding his breath. The Enclave soldiers slowed, their flashlight beams slicing through the night. Elias gripped his pistol, counting his shots. 5 left. Not enough to take them down, not with that armor. He needed a plan. "Fan out," one soldier barked, his voice muffled by the gas mask. "She's here somewhere. Kane's just a scavenger. Deal with him if he shows." Elias's jaw tightened. Just a scavenger. He'd been called worse, but it stung. He scanned the terrain. To his left, a narrow gully cut through the desert, leading toward a cluster of rusted trailers. If he could reach it, he might lose them. Or ambush them. He waited until their beams turned away, then bolted, keeping low. The gully was shallow, barely cover, but it was enough. He slid down, rocks scraping his palms, and crouched behind a boulder. The soldiers' lights swept closer, their voices growing faint as they spread out. Elias's mind raced. Where was Evelyn? Had she made it? He couldn't think about that now. He had to survive. He crept along the gully, moving toward the trailers. One was half collapsed, its roof caved in, but the other looked intact, its door ajar. He slipped inside, the air thick with the smell of rust and rot. A skeleton lay in the corner, still clutching a bottle of Sunset sarsaparilla. Elias ignored it, checking the windows. The soldiers were closing in, their beams crisscrossing the gully. Then he saw her, Evelyn, a shadow darting between rocks, heading for the same trailers. She was alive. Relief flooded him, but it was short-lived. One of the soldiers spotted her, his shout cutting through the night. "There. Southwest." Elias cursed. He had to act. He grabbed a rusted pipe from the trailer's floor, hefting it like a club. As the first soldier passed the trailer, Elias swung, catching him in the back of the head. The man stumbled, his armor clanging, but didn't fall. Elias swung again, harder, and the soldier dropped, his mask cracking against the ground. The second soldier turned, raising his rifle. Elias dove, the shot grazing his shoulder, burning like fire. He tackled the soldier, slamming him into the dirt. They grappled, the man's strength unnatural, his armor cold against Elias's skin. But Elias was desperate. He drove his knee into the soldier's gut, then slammed the pipe into his mask. The soldier went limp. Panting, Elias staggered to his feet, his shoulder throbbing. He grabbed the soldier's rifle, an energy weapon, sleek and heavy. He didn't know how to use it, but it looked dangerous. He scanned for Evelyn, spotting her near the collapsed trailer. She waved him over, her face pale but focused. "You okay?" she whispered as he reached her. "Been better," Elias muttered, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped through his fingers. "You? I'll live." She glanced at the rifle. "Nice scrap. Can you shoot it?" "No idea," he admitted. "But I'm learning fast." She nodded, her eyes scanning the dark. "They'll send more. We need to get to Freeside before they regroup." They moved quickly, sticking to the shadows. The trailers gave way to open desert, then the faint glow of Freeside's lights appeared on the horizon. The city was a maze of slums and casinos, ruled by the kings and plagued by raiders. Jericho, the ex-Enclave man, was their next step, if he was real and if he'd talk. As they walked, Evelyn spoke, her voice low. "The Enclave wants the vault as much as the Legion. They think it's a weapon, some kind of biotech to rebuild their army. They're wrong, but they don't care." "Why you?" Elias asked. "Why not just find the vault themselves?" "I worked with them once," she said, her voice tight. "Before I knew what they were. I helped design the key. They think I know more than I do." Elias studied her. There was pain in her voice, regret. "You didn't tell me everything back there," he said. "What else are you hiding?" She didn't meet his eyes. "Enough to keep us alive," she said. "For now." They reached Freeside by dawn, slipping through a broken gate. The streets were alive with noise, drunks shouting, kings patrolling in their leather jackets, addicts begging for caps. Elias kept the rifle hidden under his duster, his shoulder aching. Evelyn led the way, navigating the alleys with ease. She stopped at a rundown bar, its sign reading Atomic Wrangler. "Jericho's here," she said. "Or he was, last I heard. Stay sharp." Inside, the bar was dim, reeking of stale booze and smoke. Gamblers hunched over tables, and a jukebox played a warped pre-war tune. Evelyn scanned the room, then nodded toward a man in the corner. He was older, maybe 60, with a shaved head and a face like weathered leather. He nursed a whiskey, his eyes flicking to them as they approached. "Jericho?" Evelyn asked, sitting across from him. The man leaned back, sizing them up. "Who's asking?" "Evelyn Cross," she said. "And this is Elias Kane. We need to talk." Jericho's eyes narrowed. "Cross. Thought you were dead." He glanced at Elias. "And you're what, her bodyguard?" "Something like that," Elias said, his hand near his pistol. Jericho smirked. "You've got balls coming here. Enclave's got a bounty on you, Cross. Legion 2. What do you want?" "The code," Evelyn said. "For the vault." Jericho's smirk faded. He leaned forward, his voice low. "You don't know what you're asking. That vault's a death trap. And the code? It's not just numbers. It's a sequence tied to a machine nobody's seen since the bombs fell." "Then tell us where to find it," Elias said, his patience thinning. Jericho laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "You think it's that easy? The machine's in Vault 22. You know what's in there? Plants. Mutated, flesh-eating plants. Nobody goes in and comes out." Elias glanced at Evelyn. Her face was unreadable, but her hand tightened around the key. "We don't have a choice," she said. "Tell us how to get in." Jericho sighed, draining his whiskey. "Fine. But you're walking into hell. The entrance is sealed, needs a specific frequency to open. I've got a holotape with the specs, but it's not here. Hidden in an old NCR outpost west of here." "Then we go," Elias said. Jericho shook his head. "You're crazy. Both of you." As they left the bar, Elias felt the weight of eyes on them. Freeside was never safe, and now they had a new target. Vault 22. He didn't know what scared him more, the plants Jericho described or the fact that Evelyn was still holding back. But he'd come this far. For Mara he'd go further. They didn't see the figure in the shadows watching from across the street. A woman, her face hidden by a hood, her hand clutching a radio. "They're moving," she whispered into it. Vault 22. Inform Caesar. The NCR outpost was a ruin half buried in sand, its walls pockmarked by years of raids and neglect. Elias and Evelyn approached at dusk, the sky bruised purple. The journey from Freeside had been tense, with every rustle in the desert making Elias's hand twitch toward his rifle. The energy weapon was still foreign to him, but he'd figured out the basics: point, shoot, pray it didn't overheat. Evelyn carried the key, her face set in a grim mask. She hadn't spoken much since Jericho, and Elias didn't push. He knew she was wrestling with something: guilt, fear, maybe both. The outpost's gate was rusted shut, but Evelyn found a side entrance, a collapsed wall barely wide enough to squeeze through. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the scent of decay. Broken terminals lined the walls, their screens cracked and dark. Elias's flashlight caught glints of scattered bottle caps and spent shell casings. "This place is a graveyard," he muttered. "Most places are," Evelyn replied, her voice flat. She moved to a locker in the corner, prying it open with a crowbar from her pack. Inside was a small safe, its dial still intact. "Jericho said it's here," she said, kneeling. "Cover me." Elias nodded, scanning the shadows. The outpost felt wrong, too quiet, too still. He'd learned to trust that feeling. As Evelyn worked the safe's dial, he heard it, a faint scuffle like boots on sand. He raised the rifle, his heart pounding. "Evelyn," he whispered. "We've got company." She didn't look up. "Keep them off me. I'm almost in." The scuffle grew louder, and then they appeared, 3 figures cloaked in dark robes, moving with eerie precision. Not Legion. Not Enclave. Something else. Their faces were hidden, but their hands held curved blades, glinting in the dim light. Elias fired, the energy rifle humming as a bolt of plasma seared the air. One figure fell, their robes smoldering, but the others were fast, too fast. They split, flanking him. "Evelyn," he shouted, firing again. The second figure dodged, closing the distance. Elias swung the rifle like a club, catching them in the chest. They staggered, but the third was on him, blade slashing. He ducked, the metal grazing his duster, and fired point blank. The figure collapsed, their blade clattering to the ground. Evelyn spun, her pistol drawn, and shot the last attacker in the head. The figure dropped, revealing a tattoo on their neck, a snake coiled around a skull. "Vipers," she spat. "Cultists. They worship the old tech, think it's divine." "Great," Elias panted, wiping blood from a shallow cut on his arm. "More lunatics." Evelyn returned to the safe, pulling out a holotape. "Got it?" she said, pocketing it. "Let's move." They didn't wait to see if more Vipers were coming. They slipped out of the outpost, heading north toward Vault 22. The desert was merciless, the heat sapping their strength, but Elias pushed on, driven by the thought of Mara. Evelyn was quieter now, her eyes distant. He wondered how much she wasn't telling him, but there was no time to dig. Not yet. Vault 22 loomed by midday, a massive steel door embedded in a rocky cliff. The surrounding area was unnaturally green, vines and moss creeping over the rocks, their leaves glistening with an oily sheen. Elias's skin prickled. "This doesn't look right," he said. "It's not," Evelyn replied, slotting the holotape into a nearby terminal. The vault was a bioexperiment. Plants that could survive the apocalypse. Something went wrong. The terminal hummed, and the vault door groaned open, releasing a wave of humid, fetid air. Inside, the walls were covered in writhing vines, their tendrils pulsing like veins. Elias gripped his rifle tighter. "Flesh-eating plants, huh?" he said, trying to keep his voice light. "Stay close," Evelyn said, stepping inside. "And don't touch anything." The vault was a labyrinth, its corridors choked with greenery. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and every step echoed with the rustle of leaves. Elias's flashlight caught movement, a vine twitching, curling toward them. He fired, the plasma bolt incinerating it, but more vines stirred, their tips sharp as needles. "Keep moving," Evelyn hissed, her pistol ready. She led them deeper, following a map on the holotape. The code was in the overseer's office, but the vault seemed alive, hostile. A low hum filled the air like a heartbeat. They reached a wide chamber, its floor covered in a carpet of moss. In the center stood a terminal, glowing faintly. Evelyn ran to it, her fingers flying over the keys. "This is it," she said. "The code's here." Before Elias could respond, the moss shifted. Tendrils shot up, wrapping around his leg. He yelled, firing wildly as the vines tightened, their tips piercing his skin. Pain seared through him, but he swung the rifle, burning through the vines. Evelyn grabbed his arm, pulling him free as more tendrils rose, their movements almost intelligent. "Run!" she shouted, dragging him toward the terminal. She downloaded the code, a string of numbers and symbols, just as the chamber came alive, vines lashing like whips. They sprinted back through the corridors, the vault roaring around them as if enraged by their theft. They burst out into the sunlight, the door sealing behind them. Elias collapsed, his leg burning, blood seeping through his pants. Evelyn knelt beside him, her face pale. "You're okay," she said, but her voice shook. "We got it. The code." Elias nodded, gasping. "Now what?" "Now we find the vault," she said. "But we're not alone." He followed her gaze. In the distance, dust rose, a caravan but not merchants. Legion banners fluttered in the wind. And behind them, the glint of Enclave armor. They'd been followed. Evelyn clutched the key and the holotape, her eyes fierce. "We end this," she said. "For your sister. For the wasteland." Elias stood, ignoring the pain. "Then let's move."